back of the Naturopath. Thanks for coming back. I've got a nice question here from a subscriber, which I'm going to read out and reply. Hi Eric, my autism son, now aged 10, has been taking Candida Remove since 2017 with great success. He had a flare-up during the COVID lockdown and we ran out of Candida products due to shipping restrictions for 6 months. He now has a very bad strep infection and the doctor diagnosed it as PANDAS. I'll tell you what PANDAS is in a minute. He is now taking his 4th round of antibiotics for strep and was prescribed nystatin to keep yeast issues at bay. My question is, my Candida product just arrived last week to my country. I would like to start giving him while he's on antibiotics and nystatin prescription. Would that be okay? Also, can I start Candida Restore at the same time or better to wait after completion of antibiotics? Hope to hear from you soon so I can start the Candida. I've got autism too. I've actually Asperger's syndrome. Not many people know that. I've mentioned that in a few videos. So I can relate to obsessive compulsive disorders and ticking. You'll sometimes see me sniffing or doing weird stuff like that. So I've had a few weird comments on that saying I've got issues and stuff. Yeah, I've got issues, okay? But if you've got Asperger's, you've got issues. I was diagnosed only about a year ago, which is incredible. Now, see the sniff? So there's no problem there. It's just a tick. Sometimes it's hard not to tick, especially, if you're thinking about it. Now, PANDAS, we've got pediatric autoimmune neuropsychiatric disorders involving streptococcal infections. Okay, did you get all that? Okay, so what we've got a doctor who's looking at a child with autism saying this is what it is, maybe based on the behaviors, because PANDAS in children can create neuropsychiatric issues like ticking or uncontrolled behavior. But Christ, I had those when I was 10, okay? I had sniffing, I had ticking, I used to smell things, I used to like yodel and make noises and stuff. They didn't know what autism was back in 1970, really. I was just like the weird kid in the room with the microscope and the books, so people left me alone. And I cried when I found out I had Asperger's syndrome. It was just a shock for me. In fact, a patient told me I had Asperger's syndrome about 2-3 years ago, and because her daughter's got it, and she said, Dr. Bakker, you've got Asperger's syndrome. I said, get out of here. So I got a diagnosis, and yeah, it was a revelation. It really was. I can't really buy this PANDAS diagnosis with some cases I've seen. I really can't. But what concerns me most about this case, if you're the mum and dad of this child, is the 4th round of antibiotics. So how many more rounds are they going to give? Okay, if it were my child, I would stop the antibiotics straight away. I just can't buy into it. Every time you give antibiotics, more and more and more, you're increasing the resistance, you're destroying the gut flora more, okay, you're undermining the child's immune system. But a child, what you're doing also is you're potentially setting up a problem here, because it'll be harder and harder and harder to get the bacteria in the gut to respond, okay? Be careful. Be very, very careful with these antibiotics. I really mean it. It just really worries the heck out of me when I see young children like this taking recurring rounds of antibiotics. All right? I'm not saying you shouldn't take them. I'm just saying you should be very, very careful and preferably see a doctor who doesn't just dish out antibiotics, but go and see a doctor that's qualified in functional medicine or a naturopathic doctor. You're going to get likely a better outcome, particularly when this child is in his 30s or 40s. Okay, that's what concerns me, is as a gut, like a branch is bent, so shall it grow. Okay, if you've got a beautiful oak or willow tree and it grows straight up, it's going to be a nice strong tree. Okay, but if we've got a few branches on that thing and they're not quite straight, or the trunk's leaning, and eventually when the tree's 30-40 years old, it's going to be crooked and bent, and then of course the tree's going to topple over by the time it's 50 or 60. So, and it's the same with a child. If you keep giving medications like this, you need to be very careful. So what do? Well, I would recommend that you do a comprehensive stool test. That's what I would do. I would stop the antibiotics or let this course run out and say to the doctor, thank you very much for your work, but now we're going to look at something different. I would basically pull the child off the Candida products for about 10 to 14 days, and I would do a stool test. 3 samples over 3 days. I would highly recommend that you do this. And the lab I'm going to recommend, I'll write it down for you, and you can get this test done. I'll just write this down. I want you to go to Google and Google Doctors Data, okay? Doctors Data, that's a T. My handwriting's crap. Doctors Data, okay? They're in Chicago, they're in America, okay? But an excellent test. This is really going to show you what's going on inside this child's gut. And it's going to make a heck of a lot of difference. But I can tell you, I had a lot of ticking and weird behaviors when I was 10 or 11. I didn't want to go anywhere. All I wanted to do is stay home. I didn't want to be around a lot of people. I just wanted books. I didn't want people. And yeah, they didn't really understand Asperger's back in the 70s. In fact, most people still don't even understand it today. So your question is, would I start giving him while he's on antibiotics and nystatin prescription? No, you wouldn't. Okay, you would let those run out. In fact, I'm not even a fan of giving antibiotics and nystatin at the same time. I think it's a bit of a silly, to me it's like having a beer and a coffee and a wine all at the same time. You don't mix all this kind of stuff up. You have one thing separate from another, okay? Finish the course of antibiotics, then do the course of nystatin. Okay, nystatin's a lot safer than an antibiotic to take. Watch out for sugar cravings with this young guy. The Kenzita Restore, you can certainly take very close to nystatin, a lot closer than you could with the antibiotics. But I would probably wait till nystatin's finished. So you may want to do a course of a few weeks of that. Let that run out, and then. But if it was my 10-year-old, I'd be doing the stool test. Okay, I'd wait till the antibiotics and nystatin were finished. I'd wait, as I said, 7, 10, 14 days, wait a while, then take 3 stool samples on 3 separate days. Get it checked. Meanwhile, while the stool samples are sent away and coming back, you can put the young guy on the Kenzita Restore, definitely. So I hope I didn't come down too hard on you regarding antibiotics, but I really don't like them for children. I just have seen so much destruction and devastation of the child. Once they start on them, then often, generally, within a year or two, they'll need more medications, and they're on a big merry-go-round, basically. So just be very careful, because lots of people still don't understand the full effect of antibiotics on the gut of a developing person. There are studies I've read that show that the damage can last a long, long time. But it also depends on you as caregivers. If the child's given some sauerkraut or some yogurt or some type of cultured or fermented foods, this is going to accelerate the recovery. Okay? Look for natural sweets that the kid would like to have. Could be blueberries or raspberries, or some type of berry is going to go down quite well too. And always encourage these kind of foods with children. So yeah, long-winded reply, but I hope you got something out of that. Do the stool test, and then let's have a look at the Restore. Thanks for tuning in, and thanks for the question.